We are so pleased to welcome Dr. Cass Ingram, a nutritional physician who received his BS in biology and chemistry from the University of Northern Iowa and a DO from the University of Osteopathic Medicine and Health Sciences in Des Moines, Iowa. Dr. Ingram has written over 25 books on natural healing, and he has given answers and hope to millions through lectures and thousands of radio, TV shows. His research and writing have led to countless cures, discoveries, and he presents hundreds of health tips and insights in his many books on health, nutrition, and disease prevention. Dr. Ingram is one of North America's leading experts on the health benefits and disease-fighting properties of wild medicinal spice extracts, and his newest book, COVID-19 Remedy, The Real Truth Revealed, is helping us gain insight and navigate this very difficult time worldwide. Dr. Ingram, welcome to Holistic Healthline.
Great to be back. How you been doing? Don't stay such a stranger. Keep in touch, all right? Yeah, I was listening to the, you guys, doctors and so on, and we're all here together, medical professionals. This is a nothing illness. You know, my clinical trial was finished and put on my website on 18 cases with a nurse practitioner. It's the wild oregano, just the spice oils just obliterate it. The wild stuff. Some of the cases registered immediate improvement from our therapy. I mean, not to make the claim, it's just the way it is. That's I've got 4 human trials going on right now.
You gave us the insight into your study, and it's absolutely fascinating. But I think, again, we've been dealing with this virus for months on a national or a worldwide scale. So it's hard for people to believe that you can deal with it in a pretty simple fashion.
Well, you see, why would the medical cartel have destroyed homeopathy, herbal medicine, Native American medicine back in the 20s and 30s unless we are a threat? I don't want to say we, but unless that is a threat to the existing status quo. That shows you how powerful and how feared natural medicine is. You haven't heard any national reports on wild oregano oil, but you should. It should be coming from the government level, from the the administration of whatever, CDC, WHO. WHO knows all about my work. I helped them with SARS back in 2003, I guess it was. I sent every one of their physicians and practitioners with a kit to protect themselves in China when they went back and forth. None of them got sick. It's the same kit I'm using in the clinical trial. And the government knows everything about my work. The FDA said that we're going to prove, this was about 1999, we're going to prove the use of oregano oil to be a useless endeavor. And this was the wild oregano oil. This was the P73. This was the origination stuff, okay? So they had it. And Dr. F. Andron said, we're going to show it's useless so we can scandalize it. So she sent it to the lab 3 times. Every time it destroyed all pathogens. And finally, after the 4th and 5th time, after excoriating her lab tech for making errors and using chlorine, which she didn't do, of course, she said, all right. So they took $500,000 from the U.S. taxpayer. This was a government-sponsored. And they concluded that they should turn oregano oil into a pharmaceutical.
Well, if you can't beat them, join them, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So they published it in a major journal. That no germ. They kept tuna fish. We know this. They kept it from going bad for 90 days. You could still eat it. That's what the oregano was able to do. They never saw anything like that. Now we have this. I have the studies. I was able to completely obliterate the coronavirus, the influenza A, and the bird flu in vitro. Now, this is not in humans. And this was in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, there was a 99.999% kill in an in vitro study. And that's cell culture. And then I took a spray form of the wild oregano with clove bud and bay leaf, and in a fairly tiny concentration, it destroyed everything we tested against, all types of bacteria and fungi in this case.
And for the listeners that may be somewhat new to natural health, Dr. Ingram was the guy who kind of introduced wild oregano oil to the modern health culture. It's been something that's, I think, it's been used for probably centuries, but you kind of brought it out to the public.
Yeah, it just was being languishing, and it had some value in the medieval times and the times of the ancients, the biblical times, but no one popularized it. So what I did was, okay, let's put this out in a form that, you know, that we can test and we can show is safe for humans. And of course, the owner of the company came up with this idea of putting it in olive oil. So now you have this extra virgin olive oil, oregano oil drops. Then I actually innovated this micellization of a spray form, and that's what we used in the study. This oregano spray with oregano, clove bud oil, and bay leaf oil, which I had already tested at Georgetown University and published on how antiseptic these are. It's so powerful. Here's what they did in our clinical, and it's a clinical trial through a nurse practitioner. It's just the same as the Moderna trial, only different results. What we did, she said, look, these people, these are nurses and physical therapists and so on, they don't want to taste the oregano oil. It's too hot. So we're going to spray the spray at the back of their throats. So she put 5 sprays at the back of the throat. For you have itchy throat, you have dry cough, you have all sorts of symptoms. And some of the people registered on the survey immediate improvement. 2 of them were going to go on a respirator and be ventilated. They didn't. It's significant. 100% improvement and 100% recovery. And we were following the oxygen numbers that we can measure through the arterial blood, and the oxygen levels. This is interesting. They continuously improved every dose. This was without giving the oxygen. That we're improving because of something that the spice oils was doing to cause oxygenation, to cleanse the pathogen. And so the doctor said, no, we're not going to intubate. We're not going to give medication. The patient is improving. We have the data. Now, this should be national news because we have a crisis that's destroying our economy, our people, our civilizations. And we have the answer. And it's right under your nose in the Old Testament. You could go into a hotel, pull out the drawer, and you could, I found the cure for our global crisis. Because it says, cleanse yourself with Esoph, which is Hebrew for oregano, that you'll be purified. Well, Trump even alluded to that. He said, well, can we inject some of this chlorine and whatever? I don't know. You can't do that, but he had the right idea.
Right.
Now, Dr. Ingram, we have in your book, which was so incredibly fascinating, COVID-19 Remedy, you talk about some of these other type of infections that have been plaguing the world, and it seems like one right after the other. HIV, and we have the bird flu, and we have Lyme disease. And can you talk to us a little bit about that and how?
Well, I will. I mean, the bigger one picture is 1918. You had a big problem, and then you have the 1976 swine flu. Then 2009, 1977 was the Russian flu, and 2009 is the swine flu. One of the biggest problems is medical research, Lyme disease breaking out by Plum Island. Many of our disasters are not divinely ordained, but they're man-made. We can trace this disease, we can trace 1976, we can trace Lyme disease, we can trace HIV to human meddling. And so if you're going to be giving vaccines that cause disasters like 2009 in the pigs, it got out of the pigs, got to the humans down in Mexico, and in the U.S. it got out, the vaccine virus. If we have a COVID-19 vaccine virus that gets out of the box and starts infecting people suddenly, and then we have the Lyme disease research being done on ticks at the same year, and then being released at the same year as the outbreak in Lyme and Old Lyme, Connecticut, and Plum Island. You can't go and give more medical nonsense like a new COVID-19 vaccine that you invent out of the thin air. It's just going to make it worse. It's a medical, industrial, pharmaceutical crisis that we're dealing with. HIV is very similar. Maurice Helleman said, the big guy in the vaccination business, he said that we brought HIV over in the monkeys. And by manipulating the vaccines, it got out of the box. So this is our problem, is that we have to deal with going back to nature, going back to natural medicines. I told you, how do you think I feel? I feel like the Twilight Zone, like that little short guy with the glasses. He was the only one left on the earth when the hydrogen bomb went off. And
yes, I remember that.
I'm like
episode.
The only one that knows the answer to this whole situation.
Remedy, the real truth revealed. Dr. Ingram, we have found over the last several years, Lyme disease is a big problem in our New England area. But we have found that giving or suggesting to the people in our area to use the oregano oil preemptively, to not wait until you've been diagnosed with Lyme disease, to actually take it through the summer. And we've had far less number of people developing Lyme, as well as even just getting tick bites.
I believe that. And if they added the Oregarest, which is the sage, cumin, oregano, and cinnamon, if they could add those powerful, the sage is a huge repellent. I talked to a longhorn farmer, and he said, longhorns don't get the tick diseases, and whenever a tick bites them, it dies. No, these are different kinds of ticks. And he was a Mexican expert in the longhorn cattle. So I said, well, how much sagebrush do they eat? He says that's what they live on. They have so much sage. So a supplement with that substance in it, with the thujone, is poisonous to the ticks. The two together is a huge prevention. And then there's the spray. You can take that same oregano spray and just constantly spray you don't have to be constant. 2 or 3 times while you're out in the bush, spray your shoes, your socks, and up to your knees, and that should repel like 99%.
We have found even just the oregano oil. We started suggesting taking the oregano oil again as the preventative, that if you get bit, you'll have this in your system already. But the
very
feedback.
Smart. So you would have a defense that would go after the tick, the spirochete right now.
Right. But the feedback was very interesting because people started coming back saying the ticks won't bite. They crawl on you, but they won't bite you. So
if they're taking the oregano daily.
Right.
Yes.
Now, are they taking the P73, or are you giving them the extra physician strength?
The P73.
So you've got that one. So that's the common one in the health stores. But you also sell it at the clinic, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. So what they could do is come to you and ask for this multiple spice and the P73, so that none of our listeners get a Lyme disease, or they never get a serious case this year. Once you get Lyme disease, it's too difficult. We know, all of us, how hard it is to help you get to the well. It's much better to do prevention. So I would combine the 3 things, if we could: the Oregacillin/Oregarest, oil of oregano P73, and the spray.
Now, would you find that with what's going on with the COVID-19, that again, prevention and preemption is a better way to go than waiting until you actually have it?
I would say because the symptoms of pressure on the chest and dry cough could drive somebody crazy. They go to the hospital and they'll intubate you right away. That's a $40,000 bill anyway. And then you could have a 90% fatality. I'd say so to prevent it. Now, the nurses, we have 50 nurses and physical therapists on our prevention study. They're using the spray, some oil, some of the juice of oregano. They're doing this multiplicity. Then they're using this Sinus Oregano Spray. And 50 of 50 have not contracted COVID-19. They're working on the front lines in the hospital in Illinois. So we have pretty much hard proof of that prevention with the oregano. In fact, everybody I know that's taking the oregano, I think I've talked to about 10,000 people indirectly or through their groups. So we have a model of about 8 to 10,000. Only one person said she got it. She was a cashier and somebody was slobbering all over her at a health store. But these other huge amounts, they're not getting anything, period. They're not going to the hospital. They're not even getting the symptoms.
Now, interestingly enough, when you say using the sinus spray, I did read recently that there are particular cells up in the sinuses and in the throat area that COVID seems to enjoy and thrive upon. So putting this the oregano directly up into the sinuses not only helps to wash it out, but also kill it off.
Yeah, and there seems to be a bacterial component. You know, when they autopsied the Italians, they found huge amounts of chlamydia pneumoniae, and there may be some other bacteria. And what they're thinking is the new conception is the virus gets inside the bacteria, and it hides in there in stealth. And this is our own bacteria. Then the bacteria become pathogenic. So if you use the oregano oil daily to keep the bacterial counts down, you can't even get the virus. You use the sinus spray. You know, there are no more bacterial elements in the respiratory passages. You use the throat spray, which you can spray on your chest and your clothes. No chance of getting it. You don't need to social distance worry. You don't need to mask worry. If you have to do it, you're doing it. But you'll be completely free of it. I mean, the only exception would be if somebody full of the virus was all over you, spitting at you or something.
Well, we prefer not to have that happen.
Doc, can you talk a little bit, again, we had a little bit of insight into your actual records with the people you've worked with in the study. And again, it fascinated me. If you could tell the listeners a little bit about that.
Well, there are nurses and physical therapists and other frontline practitioners. So our group took these people who either had COVID positive or were presumed positive or were exposed and were worried. Most of them were positive and presumed positive. So what we found is there were two big comorbidities. Can you imagine? It wasn't asthma and emphysema. That was a minor one. It was getting a flu shot. If 80% of the cases had gotten 1 to 4 flu shots. The other comorbidity was pork consumption, which I know is a big factor. You see it in my book. 100% of the COVID positive had been consuming pork flesh the week or the two before. And you know, one of the symptoms is diarrhea and vomiting. So is there a food component? We have to find that out. Why aren't we testing the pigs? Because you saw when you slaughter a pig in a slaughterhouse, everybody gets sick. Shouldn't we be testing them to see if they have the same disease pattern? And if we have to be concerned about our animal, you know, our consumption habits or the transmission from transporting the swine and the workers that get sick. But the flu shot was a big one. There's coronavirus in the flu shot from multiple species. So you're going to test positive, or you're going to get a cross-sensitivity. And of course, and then the other thing we found was they used the spray. Most of the nurse practitioners sprayed the spray to the back of the throat, and it's micellized, so it's immediate absorption. It's a very powerful medicine. You know, and they also sprayed it on their bodies, on their chest, in their hospital rooms, wherever on their masks. Now, the protection study, they're spraying their masks with this material, the ones that are just not getting it.
Amazing.
We have the surveys from the 18 cases. It's pretty astounding how rapidly they improve. That's why I say this is absolutely the most ludicrous thing to shut down a world, you know, in a pathogen that even raw garlic would deal with.
And you mentioned the pork connection, which again, listeners out there are going to say, "Wait a minute, I thought it came from a bat."
Well, think about this. It started in a market, right? The market sold 90% of the weight was pork flesh, 95%. It started with the hogs traders. The early victims at the Wuhan market dealt only in hogs. It may be bat source, but there were no bats in the market when we had the outbreak. So, and then from the beginning, we lost it. It was said that it was something they consumed. They touched, consumed, ate, slobbered. And then we lost it to, it's respiratory. Now, here's the issue. The Chinese were funded by the U.S. government to study the bat coronavirus at the Wuhan Institute. They ground up the pigs they infected with the bat coronavirus and fed them to hogs. Did they get out of the box? Did they then sell these hogs to the Wuhan market? Why is the Beijing outbreak related to a meat market that sells mainly pig flesh? So the pork industry is so powerful, you're not hearing a word about this.
And if you want to order, I'm going to get this out early because I know, we get to the end and we rush. If you want to order Dr. Ingram's book, COVID-19 Remedy, give a call to 1-800-295-3737, or you can order on the web, cassingram.com. That's CASSINGRAM.com. If you didn't get that information, you can always call the Tree of Life Wellness Center, and we will gladly give that information out to you. Our number is 508-336-4242. But we still have Dr. Ingram here right now.
And it's a fascinating read. This book is a couple of hundred pages, and it will bring you through how this all came about, why it's happening, why it continues to happen, but also specifically how to prevent getting something like this and treating something like this. So it's I urge all the listeners to go to cassingram.com and check it out.
Yeah, I think the download is free for your show, so it'll be for about 24 hours in case somebody's got some challenges and they need to get it. There you go.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's far less complicated than. It's because we don't know about natural medicine. We don't know about garlic and onion. We don't know about raw onion, how aggressive it is for the lungs. We don't know about juniper or honey. We have no knowledge of raw honey, which 2 tablespoons of raw honey a day would be extremely protective against this. We don't know enough about citrus and using the rind, which is an antiseptic. And then oregano, are you kidding? Most of us don't know that much about oregano oil and how incredibly powerful it is. In our study, just a tiny amount, like 1 in 10,000, was enough to destroy the coronavirus. So I say it's not good to get it, and we give our hearts to the people who died from it, but they didn't need to die. It's easy to kill.
We have been using the oregano for such a long time for various other health conditions that, again, you mentioned the nasal spray, the Sinus Spray, for sinus infections that people have been taking antibiotics for years.
Yeah. And
then, they use the Sinus Spray just a few times and they're like, oh my God, where has this been? Well,
because this is why I say the knowledge is only 1 or 2%. They've got to all come to your clinic, so that with bronchitis it's fungal, sinusitis, allergic rhinitis, all are fungal. So they have to come see you and get some oil of oregano, some Sinus Spray to get any relief. The antibiotics will drive the fungal components deeper into the tissues. Mayo Clinic did the study. It's all online in 2000, where they said, okay, we had 220 cases with sinusitis. Well, about 98% had fungal sinusitis. We found up to 8 different molds growing in people's noses and nasal passages, and this was the pathogen. And then postnasal drip. These are common problems for us right now, and people suffering unnecessarily.
And when you think about the number of people, the nursing homes in particular have been hit very hard with all of this, people who are older. We've just found, for instance, patients with C. diff in nursing homes using the oregano helps to eliminate that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll go C. diff negative, and E. coli, SIBO, all of that will go negative in maybe 2 months. And think about the amount of flu shots that are given in the nursing homes. Why do you think they have such a problem? They're already contaminated, so then a little minor thing comes along, and boom, they drop like cordwood. It's ridiculous, and then nobody can be allowed in, and all you'd have to do is take that Oregano spray and mist it around in the nursing home, and have the nurses, use it on their hands, spray the back of their throats, take a little oil of oregano, and you'd solve. The thing that distresses me most is that I have the solution for a global crisis, and it's still unknown except by little pockets of natural practitioners.
Well, that's why we're trying to spread the word.
I thank you for that, because here's the other issue. Google, Twitter, and Facebook were constrained to suppress my research. And this is not something I was trending myself. The general public posted my early research on coronavirus and influenza A using the oregano and oregarest/oregacillin. They posted it on 2,000 Facebook sites within a week of the outbreak, and that all got crushed by the system and repressed so that no one, that trending was eliminated. That momentum could have maybe saved a life or two.
It's criminal. We've seen it. Of course, you've seen it. We've seen this for the past 30, 40 years. Again, I term it as the wall. You can't get over the wall. They built.
Yeah, and so if we could stop this financial hemorrhaging, people losing their jobs, they're losing their livelihood, they're getting depressed, they're walking down a sidewalk and they see you, they go to the other side of the street. We've got all this crisis mentality and crisis thinking that the oregano would eliminate. So if we went into a nursing home and we could stop immediately that day the spread of the transmission. That's the way it is.
And so I, again, urge the listeners, all the listeners, to go to cassingram.com. They have generously given you a free download of this book, which again is
only people just take advantage before the end of the day. And also the articles, there are a number of scientific articles about viruses, bacteria, fungus, and how the oregano comes into play. Also, the oregano oil is 60 times more powerful than alcohol. Plus, it won't crack the membranes. You'll learn about that. And mostly the website's non-commercial. Nobody's selling oregano oil there, and nobody's even mentioning much for brand names. But, I only take the P73 myself. It's wild, it works, and that's what we used in the study. And I only use the Oregano spray and the oregacillin rest. I don't mess around with the typical farm-raised stuff.
And for those of you who don't have a computer, you can also give a call and order the book, 1-800-295-3737. Again, the book is called COVID-19 Remedy by Dr. Cass Ingram. And again, you can go to his website, cassingram.com. And also, if you want to order the book, just to have the book yourself, some people like the feel of a book in their hands. You can do it that way as well.
Yeah. And the black seed oil has a value too for the respiratory tract. There's more than the garlic has, onion has, oregano, bay leaf, clove, but there's so many. Cinnamon has a value. But black seed oil was shown in 10 human clinical trials to be an effective bronchodilator. And it works on the central brainstem mechanism for respiratory control and cardiac control, by the way. as well as within the lung tissue itself, as well as within the cardiac tissue in the mitochondria. So if we added that as a supplement, it's additional protection to the lung tissue functionality, and just that much extra. I take 3 capsules twice a day of these black seed oil capsules that happen to have the oregano, rosemary in there too, and down the hatch.
Well, we want to thank you so much and for joining us. Unfortunately, the time just flew by and we're out of time, but we hope to talk to you again sometime soon.
Yeah, let's talk and keep in touch if something breaks out.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay, and then oreganol.com for product information would be helpful. Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye. He's so cool.